Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching this video, that means you missed our in-class notes. So what you're going to do is get your workbook, Unit 2A, and then you're going to get your slideshow interactive notebook open. On the front cover, you'll see it has a place that says add your name right here. Go ahead and type in your name for me. Then you're just going to kind of flip a few slides until you get to slide 6. It's the table of contents. This is a table, so you're going to go ahead and just type right in on it. But right where the first line is, we're going to go ahead and do slide number rather than like page number, which I kind of wrote, but you're just going to type it in. Today we're going to be on slide 7 and 8, and we're going to be talking about polynomial structure. So again, you can just type it on in there. Mine's a picture of it, so I'm handwriting. Okay. All right. So from here, we're going to go ahead and go on to the very next slide. We're going to take our notes about polynomial structure. This is all review. So on your paper, you should have like little, I believe like blue lines right here, like that. What you're going to do is you're just going to like highlight that blue line and just type in over it. So the first thing we're going to do is break down the word polynomial. So the word polynomial has two parts, poly and nomial. Poly, just the prefix means many, and nomial just means terms. So many terms, that's what the polynomial is. And then there's some special names for polynomials. So if you are a monomial, that just means you have one term. So again, there's like a little blue line there. You'll just kind of erase that line and type it. Binomial means you have two terms. And trinomial means three terms. Anything more, we just say like a 4-term polynomial or a 7-term polynomial or a 12-term polynomial, whatever it might be. But those are the ones that have special names. Okay. All right. The next thing it says is terms are separated by, and then you have a blank line. And in that blank line, you're going to say plus or minus signs. So a term... A term we're going to define later on, but every time you hit a plus or minus sign, you start a new term in a polynomial. All right, this next part we're going to look at, it says terms should be listed in descending order. Descending means going down. So it's descending order from the highest exponent on the left down to the constant, which is another word that we're going to define, on the right. So whatever your highest exponent is, you want to put that over on the left side, like we read from left to right, and then you work your way down, your exponents go down. All right, the next 6 things we have are just vocabulary words, and you have like a little box that looks like this with the little brackets around it like that, and it says like enter text here. You're just going to go ahead and write that, you can just type right in that little box. Okay, so a degree, talking about the highest exponent on the left, the degree is just the highest exponent in a polynomial. So as long as it's written in descending order, you'll just look at the first term and look at the exponent, and that is your degree. All right, moving over to the other side, we have variable. So you'll just kind of click on that box and write on in there. So hopefully you guys know these words again. Like I said, they're review, but a variable is just a single letter that represents a quantity. So the most commonly used is the letter X, but it's a single letter that represents a quantity. So we usually use variables as unknowns. You can use any letter you want. The next one is a term. So that's what we're talking about. Polynomials is many terms. A term could be just a single letter or number. so x is a term, or 5 is a term, or combo of the both being multiplied. I'm going to go off the edge a little bit. So what that means is, 5 is a term, x is a term, but then if you put them together and multiply, 5x is also a term. All right, so if you do have a number and a variable together, the coefficient is just the number in front of a variable in a term. So 5x, the 5 would be what we call a coefficient. The next thing is a constant. So a constant means it's never changing. So that means that it's just a single number term. So no variable attached. So if it was just a number 5, we call that a constant. And the last one is a power. So you guys hopefully know, like, a power is just an exponent. It's just a product of something being multiplied by itself. All right, so that is slide number 8 that we just wrote on, I believe. Oh no, this was slide number 7. We wrote on, mine has the wrong number, but it's slide number 7. And then what you're going to need to do is grab your notebook, your workbook, and you're going to turn to pages 9 and 10 are our examples. So example number 1 is always scaffolded. It asks a bunch of questions, and not like all these steps, it might not necessarily have you write out every single time, but for the sake, of explanations and everything, we're going to go ahead and kind of write them all out. So example number 1 says, identify the terms in the expression 5a squared minus a plus 7. What is the highest power of the variable a? So step 1 says rewrite any subtraction using addition. So 5a squared plus negative a plus 7. I would not expect you to do that necessarily when you're showing your work, but what it is you understanding that the minus sign or the subtraction sign goes with the term after it. So then it says list the terms being added. So where there's a plus sign right here and right here, you just kind of drop those. 5a squared, comma, negative a, comma, 7. Those are our terms. And then it says identify the power on each term. Power of a. So here the power is your exponent, so it's 2. Even though there's no exponent written here, there's technically like an imaginary 1, just universally accepted. If there is no exponent, it's a 1. And then on the last one, it's a constant. There is no variable, so then the exponent on the variable would be 0. Last thing says determine the highest power of a. Well, we have 2, 1, and 0, so the highest power is 2. That means that 2 is the degree. That's the degree of the polynomial. We call squareds quadratics. All right, our next 2 examples says identify the terms in the expression negative 2x to the 8th plus 3x squared minus x plus 11. Note the coefficient, variable, and power of each term. Okay, so to keep us kind of more organized, I'm going to make a table. So the first little column, we're going to write what the term is. Then we're going to write what the coefficient is. Make sure I spell it right. Then we're going to write what the variable is. And then lastly, we'll write our power of x. All right, so I'm going to list my terms. So every time you get to a plus or minus sign, it's a new term. Minus signs go with it. So the first one's negative 2x to the 8th, so that's our first term. Then it says plus. We don't actually have to write the plus. It's just 3x squared. Minus x, the minus sign does have to go with it. Plus 11, we don't have to write the plus sign. Then we go to our coefficients. So remember, coefficients are the numbers in front of the variable. So negative 2 is in front of the x. 3 is in front of the x. It says minus. There's universally accepted that there's a 1 in front of a single term, so negative 1. And then 11, so it's normally the number in front of a variable. There is no variable because this piece is a constant. So just kind of right in between the coefficient and variable, we're going to write constant because there is no coefficient for that one and no variable. All right, the next column is for the variable. So the variable is just the letter. So we have x, 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 and the last one doesn't have any because it's a constant. And then we have the power. So power is your exponent. So my exponent here is 8. My next exponent is 2. This next one doesn't have an exponent, so it's just a 1. And then the last one doesn't even have a variable, so it's a 0. So this is a degree 8 because that's the highest power. All right, next one, it says example 3, write a polynomial function in descending order that contains the terms negative x, 10x to the 5th, 4x cubed, and x squared. Determine the degree of the polynomial function. All right, so we always go in descending order, starting with our highest exponent. So the highest exponent I see right here is 10x to the 5th, so that's what I'm going to write first. Then the next highest exponent is a cubed. It's a positive term, so it's going to be plus 4x cubed. The next highest exponent is a 2. It's also positive, so we're just going to write x squared plus x squared. And then our last one is negative x. So since it's a negative, we just write minus x. And then the last thing we had to do was determine the degree. The degree is the highest exponent. My highest exponent is 5, so degree 5. So again, everything we've done is review. This is stuff hopefully we know. What you're going to do now is take a picture of your examples. You can either use your cell phone or like your computer camera, like the Chromebook camera. You take a picture of both sides. So take a picture of page 9 and then page 10 and upload them onto slide 8 in your digital notebook in place of the example photos that are there. And then on slide 7, you should see some sticky notes where you can write any questions on one of them and a summary of what the notes are about on the other. And then our classwork today was to complete problems 1 through 10 on page 13 of your workbook, and then you take a picture and upload it onto Google Classroom. Okay.